Welcome to How It All Started podcast in North Iowa. My name is Erick Nganyange, and my guest today is the owner and founder of Harrison CPA, Mr. Chad himself. Chad, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
2018, you founded the firm.
Yes, 2018 in May, right after tax season ended for the prior year.
Did you work somewhere else before that?
I did. I worked at another local firm from 2006 through 2018.
Were you always thinking about starting your own firm?
Yeah, I was. So when I was going to college, it was for electrical engineering and mathematics. And then I got kind of bored with the college setting and went and job shadowed my uncle. And he showed me what the electrical engineers did. And it was it was sitting behind a desk all day. And I'm like, there's no way I can do that. So I went and talked to the business advisor and told him I wanted to just run my own business someday. I grew up on a farm, watching my dad go do his own thing, and thought, hey, I can do that. I didn't know what it was, but the business advisor said, you should go into accounting. You learn how businesses work, and you can kind of run whatever type of business you decide you want to run someday. He probably thought, this kid's never going to do anything, so just go get your accounting degree so that you can get employed. So yeah, the whole time kind of had the mindset of running my own company, doing my own thing. Didn't know that it was going to be in the accounting realm. I was working construction when I graduated. My wife lined up the interview for me with the firm that we started working at. That's kind of how that started. Fast forward now, and I own my own company sitting behind a desk all day. So,
Go right back to square one.
Yeah, exactly. But
so you went to college to do electrical engineering. How many years in the college when you switched the major? Did you switch a major to accounting?
Yes, I switched my major to accounting. I switched in between my freshman and sophomore year.
Okay.
And so it took a few extra years to get a degree from that standpoint. I had taken my freshman year was all calculus, chemistry, and physics, a bunch of credits that didn't really count towards anything.
Yeah.
But they helped me get to be a licensed CPA, you have to have 150 credit hours.
Yeah.
So it actually helped me get that. Other than that, those credits were somewhat wasted. I don't use a whole lot of chemistry or physics in this realm now.
Yeah.
But
where did you go to college at?
my wife and I went to Northwestern Bible College in St. Paul.
Okay.
They had a dual degree at the time with the University of Minnesota for the mathematics and electrical engineering.
Okay.
And so I went there. It was supposed to be 3 years at Northwestern and 2 years at U of M. And then we were up in the cities for 4 years. My wife finished college, and then we moved back down here to Iowa after we'd married in between our sophomore and junior year. We moved back down here, and I finished college taking night classes at Buena Vista.
Oh, so you finished your 4 year over here?
I finished it down here. They offer the Buena Vista courses through the Nyack campus.
Yep. Okay. Northwestern, is that where you met your wife, or how did you guys meet?
No, my wife and I met when we were, however old you are, in third grade. So,
really?
Yes, my family started going to church in Clear Lake. We were from about a half hour south of there. And so we started going to church in Clear Lake, and our families became good friends. And so we both had older sisters and younger brothers, and we got stuck hanging out together all the time. So we started dating at a very young age. Our parents would drive us to a movie, and we'd sit there and not talk to each other the whole time, and then go home. But then we started dating somewhat seriously our junior year of high school, I believe. So yeah, we've known each other for forever.
Wow. Yeah. You graduated from Buena Vista, and when are you sitting for the CPA? Okay. Or did you go straight? Did you go straight to work after that?
I went straight to work after that. So I started at the other firm I worked for, 2006 timeframe, and I worked there for probably four or 5 years.
Was this public accounting? Oh, just
it's the same type of thing that we do here.
Okay.
A local firm working with small self-employed business owners, and then doing 1040 tax returns too.
Okay.
And so I did that for 4 or 5 years, and then I went and got my MBA and got my master's. And as part of that was the Becker review courses for the CPA exam. So I did that. Then I sat for the CPA exam, and I think it was 2012. I should know that, but once you've experienced the CPA exam, you just try to forget it.
Once you pass, it's done.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But I believe I passed that in 2012.
And then did you move from the firm you were working before to another firm?
Nope, stayed there. I was at the same. I'd only worked at one other firm before I went off on my own.
At this time, when you were doing MBA, thinking about sitting down for the CPA, are you thinking about you going to go on your own in the future, or is this something happen later?
The MBA and sitting for that, it was an aspect of, we have 2 young kids, we're married and we're broke, and I need to find a way to pay for the CPA exam, the study courses. And back then, student loan deferment was a great tool for that. And so I went and got my MBA as a means to kind of fund our personal lives. Not anything that I would recommend anyone do, but it was what we needed to do at the time. I went into that knowing I wanted to get my CPA license because at that time, I knew in one way or another this is what I was going to do the rest of my life. Okay. And whether it was at someone else's firm and becoming a part of that, or whether it was going off on my own, it was the game plan for me at that point.
Walk me through the emotional roller coaster, because you're moving from comfortability of paycheck and then you jumping on your own. Did you know for a fact that you're going to have some of the clients comes with you, or did you start completely from no client? And did you have kids at this time?
We did.
Okay.
We did. We had 4 kids. When I went off on my own, we had 4 kids. And so it was 2018. My oldest would have been 11 years old. And the day I put in my notice, my son turned, I think it was 3.
Oh, wow.
3. No, he turned 4. He turned 4 the day I put in my notice. And then I had a daughter younger than that. So I had a 1-year-old daughter as well. So it was the year before we went off on our own. I didn't want to leave the firm I was at high and dry. And so I didn't leave before tax season. I left after tax season. And so that's a horrible time to start a practice where the majority of your income is taxed. And so we knew it was going to be tough, but the summer before that, it was probably August or September that we got the final, okay, this is what we're going to do. I'd been pushing for it for a year or 2 before that. And, and she was she was not ready. She wasn't ready. Yeah. The first time I brought it up, I think Braden, my son, was a year old, and we knew we wanted to have one more. And then I pushed a little bit harder the next year. And at that point, I think we were maybe pregnant. Yeah. And so didn't want to do it then. And then it was funny because we were sitting in a church sermon or in a church on Sunday morning, and we were listening to the sermon, and I'm like, I really think that I need to start my own company. And I can't remember exactly what was said or anything like that, but it hit me like, I think we need to do this. Yeah. And I was like leaning over to my wife to say, hey, we need to have a talk this afternoon. And she was in tears, like literally crying. And I'm like, what's going on? And she's like, you need to start your own company. Yeah. It was the same message, same day, same thing. It was end of August, beginning of September timeframe. And that's when we started planning for it and figuring out, okay, what does this mean? Yeah. And what does it look like? So
what did the wife do before?
She was primarily a homemaker, taking care of the kids. She worked up to 30, 32 hours a week for the company I worked for, doing some data entry, some bookkeeping type stuff, but it was around the children's schedule. Oh, okay. And so she helped out there. And so when we went off on our own, my assistant came with as well, but it was me, my wife, Michelle, and my assistant. Okay. And we started just the 3 of us then in May of 2018.
Oh, wow. How did you pay your assistant then?
She got paid every week.
Because I'm assuming in 2018, you did not have that much revenue.
We did not, no. But we had enough. There were some circumstances that I knew this was going to be happening for a while. And then when she did and got on board, we were able to put some money into savings. By that time, we had dealt with the student loans and everything. And outside of the house, we were debt-free. So it was able to stockpile some money that way. And then there was the last tax season I worked, I was approached by a friend who's a financial advisor in Ankeny, and he had a friend who worked for a tax preparer, and that tax preparer in February, March timeframe was hospitalized with cancer. And this company had a bunch of tax returns that they needed help preparing. And so I helped with those nights and weekends, and I got very, very little sleep that last tax season, even more so than normal, because I did my normal work that I was doing for the firm I was working for. And then I would do this like from midnight till 2 or 3 in the morning. And then I'd work Saturdays and Sundays as well, getting that done. That's what kind of helped float a little bit of those first few paychecks that we needed to give Miranda that we maybe didn't have the cash for.
Oh, wow. Where was your first location?
Our first location was, well, you're right here, so I can point and say it was about 100 feet that way.
Oh, in the same building.
The same building we're in. It was a 1,100 or 1,200 square foot office space, just a couple 100 feet away.
Yeah, and now it's just 3 of you guys.
And that was just 3 of us.
How many clients you got?
Well, I didn't have a non-compete with the place that I worked before.
That's good.
And so I was working with approximately 115 to 125 business clients at the firm prior. And there were, I think, 60 or 61 of them that we sent letters to and said, hey, we're going off on our own. You know, we'd like to continue to serve you. If not, the company that I work for has the means to do that. And within the first 3 months, I think almost all of them but one ended up coming with. It ended up being a pretty decent scenario from that standpoint. It worked out well for us. We went about 3 months. We did May, June, and July. I think we billed them the first time in July. And so we started that 3rd month actually having some cash flow. Before that, it was a couple $100 here and there doing someone's tax return or trying to pick up work and just really kind of grinding and trying to push as hard as we could to pick things up from that standpoint.
And at this time, you debt-free?
We were.
Okay, so that helped out a little bit.
That helped out a little bit, but I needed a little extra push. And so in July, I financed a brand new Chevy Suburban for my wife and the family. Once again, not something I'd ever advise someone to do. I needed more push. I didn't want to get complacent. I didn't want to stop doing what I had been my entire career, is pushing and growing and trying to do that stuff. And so that, and I've always kind of been a car guy. And so, it was one of those things where it's like, it helped motivate me just to keep pushing.
2018 until now, we're on 2024. That's just 6 years.
That's just 6 years. That's correct.
How much of your clients grow from 115 to now?
Okay. So 115 is what I was working with there.
Yeah.
We ended up bringing 60 of them with us.
Okay.
We currently have about 350-ish business clients that we work with.
That's pretty good.
We have approximately 3,300 to 3,500 individual tax returns that we do on an annual basis now.
That's impressive.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's impressive and a lot of work. You operate your firm with Christian faith front and center. You say it's all about doing things with integrity and values. Why that is important to you or your firm?
Yeah. I was raised in the Christian faith. I was raised with that background. At a young age, we started driving a half an hour to go to church in a community where there were churches. My parents were always a pretty fantastic, like, who you are is who you are. And so whether I was outside working with my dad or I was sitting beside him in a pew at church, he was the same person. And that always kind of stuck with me. And then Michelle's father was a youth pastor for 25 years. He was the same way. Even today, both of them, it's if we go out and we're shingling a house, all right, or whatever, the same people up there are the same people that you're going to see in church or whatever. And so that was my example as a child and through my adolescence. And so as I was getting into this, I wanted to be able to, there's a cross in the logo, and the majority of that is for me, right? Yeah. I want to walk in the building every day. I want to have it on my chest and see it on the wall and remember why it is that we're here doing this. And I'll also remember who I am. In a small community like this, or in this community that we're in and trying to serve, if I operate my business one way and then I see my clients at a football game, or I see them at church on Sunday, or I see them in the grocery store, right? I want to live by the example that I was raised, where who I am is who I am.
So you don't want to separate your life, like, oh, this is me at work and this is me at home and this is me on Sunday.
That is correct. I am a big kind of opposite of what most people think, but I don't know that there is a work-life balance. I think it is just life, right? Everything that we do, we shouldn't segment who we are. We shouldn't hide. I want to be real in every situation.
Interesting.
And so I've said it to my operations manager several times, who says, you work too much or you need to do this. And I ask him in the Bible where it says you're supposed to work 8 hours and go home. And so I do it kind of mess with him a little bit. But, I want to be that example for my kids, that it's okay not to just go with the norm. Yeah. It's okay not just to follow along with what other people are doing, but to really set yourself apart and try to live that way. That's how we decided to run it this way, and so why. Do
you think that separates you from the public accounting, the firms?
I've been asked that before, and I don't know how to answer that. I think it does, but at the same point, I hope that it doesn't. I want to make very clear that we're not using this as a marketing ploy or that type of thing, and it has nothing to do with that. It's more internally and those type of things. And so we have our core values, and we have in our handbook, one of the things that it starts with is Colossians 3:17, that in everything we do it as though we're working for the Lord. And so it's front and center for everybody, whether it's who we're hiring or who we're interviewing or any of those things. We just don't hide from that. I hope to some degree the community feels that there's more to us than just we're here to do your tax return, right? Or we're those type of things. And so, because that's not the legacy I want to leave someday, is not that we did a ton of tax returns. I want it to be that we helped a ton of people. Yeah, I suppose it probably does set us apart a little bit. The fact of the matter is, around this area, there isn't a bad option for where you can have work like what we do done. In the scheme of the nation as a whole, it probably sets us apart. Yeah. But in North Iowa, if you look at any other firm in the area, they're doing the same type of things we're doing. They're giving money to the same events. They're sponsoring the same things. They're doing all that. So, I mean, I don't know that it sets us apart here, but that's more the community we're in versus anything.
Let's say I'm coming to Chad and I'm looking for a job, but I don't believe in God. How do you handle that?
We would welcome you with open arms. There is no prerequisite. There is no things that you have to participate in. We have a optional weekly prayer time as a team where you can go and share your prayer requests, and either Langdon or myself prays for the team as a whole and those requests. We have a men's Bible study that we do every other Thursday morning. Once again, here. Oh, okay. Once again, an optional. Like I said, we don't hide from any of that, but also we respect those that don't want to participate. And what we want to do is we want to give people an opportunity to work somewhere where they're comfortable, where they feel safe. There is no requirement that you believe what we believe.
You're usually the first one in?
I'm one of the first 2 or 3 typically.
Okay. What time you get in?
I get in anywhere between 6 and 8 o'clock. It varies quite a bit.
That's a huge gap.
That's a very big gap. It's a very big gap. But I'm pretty much awake by 5:30 most mornings.
And so, you guys live in Clear Lake?
We do.
Okay.
We do.
Okay.
Yep.
Go back on 2018. You're giving your 2 weeks notice. Are you afraid?
I don't know. I've always kind of been a grab life by the horns type of person, and just kind of run with it. Even now, an opportunity comes up, and I'm going to jump in. We just purchased another CPA in town.
Did you?
Yeah, we closed about a month and a half ago.
Have you shared already with the public?
We have.
Okay.
Tim Shupick's company. He's run a successful business for 40-some years. But yeah, so I mean, something like that where I'm going to jump in first and figure it out later. Is kind of the mindset that it's going to be. So, as a CPA with ADHD, you kind of you kind of find yourself in these type of scenarios where it's like, we can make that work. Let's do it. And then, they're
that's
fun.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's just kind of always been the way that I've operated to some extent. Just jump in, figure it out.
Yeah.
And so,
where did you grow up?
I grew up
born and raised.
Born and raised in Alexander, Iowa.
Okay.
So we were 25 minutes south of Ventura. We grew up on a farm. My dad farmed 600 acres, and we raised hogs. And
Okay.
So we had I grew up with livestock and farming my whole life. So.
Farming, livestock, electrical engineering, accounting. What next?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think I'm pretty content where I am right now. I'm going to continue to push for growth. There's opportunity out there for sure. What I've found is that I think we could be a good conduit for the next generation of CPAs to some extent. There is a shortage of CPAs. When COVID hit and anyone was close to retirement age as a CPA, they all said, we're out.
People don't go in accounting anymore.
People don't, yeah.
And people who jump out, they don't go back.
Correct.
Yeah.
The industry has shrunk to some degree. If you were close to retirement age or at it during COVID, probably 50% of them retired. Now the number of kids going to school for accounting is dropping year after year after year. And so there's less and less workers and more work. What we're seeing as an industry is that 65 to 75% of the CPAs in the industry, the public accounting industry, are within 5 years of retirement. If you look around north central Iowa in the rural communities, I bet that number is closer to about 90 to 95% of the preparers are 5 to 10 years away from retirement. Yeah. And so we see that as an opportunity, though, because one of my hardest hires and best hires was probably an operations manager who had zero accounting background. So we hired him and had him come in and help us build our processes and procedures and the way that we do things. And I think that right now we could find a young CPA who wanted the opportunity to grow his own business that didn't want all the risk. And I think we could go help them open up a location somewhere in a small community. And I think they could help that community. I think we could help them get started, help them grow. I think that's where there's future opportunities for us that we have not really dove into yet.
That's interesting. Some like a franchise?
Well, no, because I don't want to get into all the franchise laws and all the stuff that goes with that. But similarly concept, right?
Okay.
As far as open up a location in a small community, drop a CPA in there, let them run it, let them grow it, and have an exit strategy for them where it becomes theirs at some point, right? And just help that grow that and help that community. Yeah.
Would you want them still call like Chad Harrison, or you can be like Erick CPA?
Well, I try very hard not to be a prideful person. We have changed the name of the company recently to Harrison Associates. When we purchased Tim Shupick, and because we have 6 or 7 CPAs now, and so a lot of people still think, it's just Chad, and realistically, we have, like I said, 6 CPAs. We have an enrolled agent. We have 2 people that are studying for the CPA exam right now. Yeah. We have 31 employees at this point.
31?
Yeah. And so there are many, many people here who we have trained up in our systems and our processes and know the way that we feel about how we want to work and help people.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people here that could jump into that role and help someone. And so realistically, if we're opening another location or dropping somewhere in there, it's probably another Harrison and Associates, and until it makes sense for it not to be from that standpoint. But
31 employees, not all of them are here though.
No. We have 3 different locations. We're here in Mason City. We have a location in Hampton, and we have a location in Ankeny.
Okay.
And then currently we have 4 remote employees.
Okay.
We have someone in South Dakota, someone in Indiana, one in Louisiana, and we have another one that we've hired in Arkansas that starts here soon as well. That's kind of been our solution to the industry shrinking, has been expanding the pool in which we are looking for employees. So if there were employees looking for that position locally, we're going to start there. But if we've tried that and there's no one available at this time, we're going to push the bounds of where we can look. I don't want to go to another firm and try to poach an employee. So we're trying to do that respectfully and look at it a different way.
Do you have to travel to all of these other locations or rarely?
Yeah, I travel to Hampton and Ankeny pretty regularly. We have someone from our leadership team at every office every week. We've spent some time on the road. One of our big things is being involved in the communities we're in.
Okay.
And so we don't want to just treat them, the employees themselves and the clients, as remote location type things. It's right. It's each one is part of this company.
Okay. Out of your 31 employees, I'm curious about one employee, and I wonder, what do they actually do?
Okay. Who is it?
The employee name is Bo Jackson.
Bo Jackson, yeah. So Bo Jackson is he's been with us for about 5 years now.
Was he the first hire?
He was the first hire outside of the original 3.
Okay.
Yep. We have a good situation worked out with Bo, but I got lonely the first tax season, and so I wanted someone that would work the same hours as I did, and
would not complain.
And would not complain. No, he never complains. He puts in the hours. We pay him in food and walks and dog treats. And so he's our tax therapy dog. And so if you're coming to us and you're going to owe a bunch of money, we're going to call Bo into the room because I've never seen anyone upset with Bo around. And so, he spends less time here in the summer because my son is home during the summer, and they have a pretty tight bond. But yeah, he comes with almost every day during tax season. He's the official greeter of the office, so he'll come up and smell you every time you walk in the door. But that's he was our first big hire.
Wow. When I saw that, I just started laughing. I was like, I'm going to ask Chad, how does he pay Bo?
It's dog food. It's dog food and treats. So
every time I tell people I'm an accountant, they think I'm a CPA. And I have kind of sometimes explained to them, every CPA is accountant, but not every accountant is CPA. Explain the difference between CPA and just general accountant to the people who are not in accounting world.
That's a good question. That's a good question. I've got accountants on my team that are very well versed in areas that I have CPAs that aren't. Right? Yeah. And so a CPA gives you certain abilities that allows you to sign off on things from a legal standpoint, liability standpoint, for financials and SEC type stuff, and different filings that you need to be a licensed CPA for. Yeah. It also allows you to talk to different, like the IRS. You can get a power of attorney for someone with a EA or a CPA, where an accountant can't necessarily get that and talk to them on behalf of your client from that standpoint. But it's sometimes it's a misnomer that you need the CPA versus needing the accountant or the tax preparer or whatever, right? Because like I said, there are people in this office that I try very hard to hire people that are good at what they do. They don't need me sitting over their shoulder pointing at what they need to do. They know what they're doing. And so it's sometimes difficult to explain, but sometimes it's just a expensive piece of paper. But it's one that I would never give up at this point.
How much technology you think changed the world of accounting? And what's the future look like?
The technology in the last 18 years has changed drastically. Mm-hmm. However, I never had to file a return by paper. I still do one every year to make sure that I can, but I haven't ever had to. And so I think that was probably the last huge change. But there are these little changes that have been happening over and over. And I think if I were to go back and look at it cumulatively, it's a significant change. Yeah. And realistically, that change is only going to get bigger. Technology is advancing faster and faster. There's the obvious AI implications of what this could be, but where we've seen or benefited or been using aspects of that now is more on the automation standpoint. Okay. And trying to build automations where some of that work in the background is happening without us having to throw manpower at it. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's going to continue to improve. AI, there are options out there right now where you can send people's tax prep docs to a company. You can pay X amount of dollars per return, and they send it back to you in your tax program. You just have to review it and click a button. It hasn't been something that we've looked at yet. I like my team too much, but also it hasn't been it hasn't made fiscal sense yet for us to make that move. And so I don't know what that looks like down the road. One of the things that we try very hard to do is to minimize the cost of our returns to our customers, our clients. And so when that becomes a situation where it's more cost efficient to do that, then we're seeing how we're repurposing the employees we have and teaching them to review returns rather than enter those things. And so,
what some of the tasks do you think AI is going to eliminate in accounting world? Somebody was talking about accounts payable, accounts receivable type of thing.
I think that there's already some things out there from that standpoint that are changing how accounts payable are done. There's one of them that I'm using right now for my own personal accounts payable. My wife used to take care of it and has needed to be more hands-on with our kids recently. And so I'm responsible for our accounts payable now, which means if I don't have a system to help, people aren't going to get paid.
Yeah.
And so we've implemented one. It's called Maker's Hub, and it scans our invoices and it auto-populates half of it. And then AI in general, I think for the first, I don't even know how long, but for the foreseeable future, I think it's going to be more of a tool than a replacement.
Yeah.
All right. I think it's going to be, instead of the accounts payable rep entering the data, they're reviewing it and just doing twice as much as they were before. Right. And so I think tax prep would be a very similar scenario.
Just review it
instead of entering it, instead of having to key in the data, you're having to review and make sure it's all entered appropriately. Because even AI makes mistakes. And so I think that it'll continue to improve in those type of tasks, the repetitive, mundane stuff. But AI isn't going to figure out how to strategically plan from a tax standpoint and save someone thousands of dollars in tax. That's going to take an individual that can think things through from that standpoint. But I do see it becoming an integral part or a larger and larger part of what we do and how we do it.
So after hiring Bo, who was the second employee you hired, and when was it?
We grew pretty quick. And so the first tax season was pretty much us. I had a friend for the second tax season that did help do some returns. He's got his own company in Clear Lake right now. But we used him on a contract type basis and paid him for the work he did. We hired a few that we still have with us yet today. We have a tax preparer who's an EA now. Her name is Emily. We have a bookkeeper who her name is Pam. And we have our office administrator who is Tina. And so they've been with us over 4 years now. And so, those are some of the long-standing hires.
Are you aspire to be as big as formerly Big Four firms in the future? No, that's not something in you.
I don't think so.
You don't care for that.
No. I want to be a regional firm, or at least a firm that can step into the communities and the areas and maintain these same types of things that we have now. Right. Culture is a huge buzzword as well. Right. And everybody talks about their culture. And at the end of the day, I can say my team is my family, but they maybe don't feel that. Right. I hope they do. Right. Yeah. And so I love everyone here that works here. They have become an extension of our family. And until we can do that in a way that I don't not know who someone is, right? I'm not sure I'm going to be comfortable running that business. Right? Because it's not about me anymore. I mean, as much as people call in and want to talk to me, it's not about. I mean, it's about the people that work here. We've got 31 different families that are living in these communities based off of what happens within these walls that I have very little to do with. Right? I'm just one person. So
that's true.
That's where until we can do that in a way that we can replicate that and maintain it from that standpoint, I'm not interested in it. So I would love to continue to grow. I would love to continue to do that. But that's the area where we need to be careful. Is the work is there. We could go get it. Right. But I'm not sure it makes sense. Right.
I like the way you put it. I didn't even think about that. I was just thinking about, you got 31 employees. But I have 31 families.
Yeah. I mean, so that was you asked me earlier if I was scared, right?
Yeah.
That was probably my biggest fear. My biggest fear was not is this going to work out for me and Michelle? My biggest fear was, well, when we started was, can I pay Miranda? That was my biggest fear. And then every time we hired someone for the first 3-4 years, it was, this is one more family that's relying on this now. That still is the burden that I feel from that standpoint. Yeah. And luckily we've been able to keep that flowing. But that's the aspect of it that I worry about more than anything, is what happens if I can't support those families anymore, or if this company can't support those families anymore. Myself, I could go figure something out. Yeah. I could find a job somewhere or whatever.
Construction is
I could go back. I could go back to construction. No, that would never happen. I'm too old at this point. But that's that was the biggest fear when we went off on our own, was not, are we going to get the clients? Are we going to be able to? The big joke was buy my daughter shoes. Adeline, she was 2 at the time, and Miranda, when we were talking about bringing her on, her question was, are you going to be able to afford Adeline's shoes? And that kind of has been the joke ever since then. Yeah. But that has never been the concern. The concern has been making sure those families are taken care of. So,
because that can be scary. If you're going to go back on your first year in college, what advice would you tell yourself?
Oh, wow. That's a good question, Eric. I'm a look forward guy, not necessarily
looking back.
Look backwards guy.
Well, if that's the case, I got a better question then.
Okay.
What's the future of the firm?
Ooh, the future of the firm, I think, is working in the firm right now. Okay. I think the future of the firm are some of the people that we have as employees that are going to step up and be the next wave. Okay. That's what I think. I think we've got some pretty good hires that I think have the capacity to do it. I think that's the future of the firm.
Building the next leaders? Building
the next leaders, correct. And continuing to grow it from that standpoint. I see continued growth. I want to see it, as I said earlier, in not as haphazard of a manner as we've had it. We've pushed for growth and we've done different things, and I'm not sure that we had all of our pieces in the right, or all the people in the right spots on the bus. And I'm not sure we had all that type of stuff set up, ready to go. But our leadership team has done a very good job at getting things lined up where we can do that next step and continue to grow. So I see probably additional locations in the future in the smaller communities, and trying to continue to build bridges in those areas.
What advice would you give somebody a young person out there who wants to become a CPA, or they're thinking about it?
Yeah. There are unlimited opportunities from that standpoint. There is public accounting, there is private, there are industries that need CFOs. Yeah. There are all kinds of things out there that you could do with it. The other aspect that I would say is what my business advisor told me was that with an accounting degree, you can pretty much run or know how businesses work, and you can pretty much do whatever you want to do. Mm-hmm. And so whether it's you want to go work for another company and do some of their back office work from an accounting standpoint, or you want to work with different industries and see a different client every day. Yeah. There's so many different opportunities out there. That's what I would say to them. I think a lot of people get scared by the Big Four audit mentality, where if I want to be an accountant, I have to go travel the country for the first 6 years of my life and never be home and audit. And I have yet to do one audit. I never participated in one. So
your firm don't do audits?
We don't do audits. Nope.
Are you thinking about it in the future?
No, I'm not. No. I don't see myself ever participating in an audit.
Okay. Because that's another area. It's in high need.
That's in a larger demand than I think even some of the tax prep and those side of things go, is the audit prep and audit delivery is huge demand right now.
Yeah, and it looks like all public accountings don't want to do it.
No.
Why is it?
It's just, I don't know the answer to that because I've never done it. I think it's the regulation aspect of it. Yeah. I think it's the Big Four mentality from 10, 15 years ago, where this is what it is. You got to do it. And then today's mentality of, I want to work that 40, 50 hours and go home, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. But I think that's why it's not as big of a pull as it used to be.
Yeah. As we kind of approaching the tax season here.
Yeah.
Are you still taking new clients?
We are.
Okay.
We are, yeah.
For just regular tax return or just business?
Both. Yeah, we're still, I don't know that I'd ever turn a 1040 away.
Okay.
Just from the mindset of surely we should be able to find someone to do one more tax return. Yeah. But as of right now, yeah, we're still taking clients. And so I feel like we have been able to build our efficiencies. We are utilizing tax reviewers across the nation. What we found is people don't like that huge grind, right? They don't like the 80 hours of tax season a week. And so what we've started doing is piecing that together. And so we've hired 2 people for this coming tax season that want to work 30 to 35 hours a week. And so that is essentially our one employee that's working 70 hours a week. Yeah. And so there's a lot of wisdom out there. There's a lot of guidance that my firm, myself included, need. Mm-hmm. And so if we can go find a CPA in their 50s or 60s who wants out of the game but still wants to work part-time during tax season, we're gonna go hire them. We have a gentleman by the name of Brant out of Louisiana that has been with us for a year now, who that's what he wanted. He wanted to work 35 hours during tax season, and that's what he did. And then he's worked about 8 to 10 hours for us during the off season every week. And so
really?
Now we have him coming back this coming tax season, and he knows our system, he knows our employees, he knows some of our clients, and I think that's what we're looking for, people like that.
That's interesting, and I think that's probably where it's going to go. I think most of public accounting, they're probably going to end up doing like, hey, we know you got another full-time job. Come in after 5:30.
Yeah,
and some weekends.
Yep. I think we have 3 reviewers on top of Brant that we have spoke to and have hired for this coming tax season. They are all full-time, 40 hours a week for our firm. Yeah. But we have talked with several that are, we have a gentleman locally that's wanting to come in and work 2 to 3 hours a night prepping tax returns. And so
interesting.
That's where I think being open and having those options there, I think become huge.
Yeah.
And so,
because now you open yourself out to the bigger market.
Yeah, right. I mean, it gives us the more capacity. Yeah. Right now, our bottleneck is the review on a return, right? We can get them prepped, and then the review process takes longer. And so if we can hire people, that's what they're good at.
Review quick.
Yep.
Yeah.
Get them reviewed, and then do the final partner review, and they're out the door.
Yeah. Mark Twain say the 2 most important days of your life is the day you're born and the day you find out why. Have you found out why?
Yeah, I have. It was a couple of years into this on my own that it's like this is why we're doing it, right? And when we had those employees that we were feeding their family essentially, right, or whatever, employees that were relying on us for a job, and we were able to meet those demands. And then there were some clients that came in that needed help, and we were able to give that, and that's where it's like this is why we're here. This is why I was born. Outside of fatherhood and being tasked with raising my children, guiding them to be who they're meant to be. Yeah. Outside of that, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Giving other people opportunities.
Yes. Giving other people opportunities to help. I've said it several times, and it seems, I'm running a business. We get paid for what we do. I mean, I can't not, right? We have to, because we've got those 31 families, right?
Yep.
That being said, I think we do it in such a way that it's respectful. I think I was made the running of the business aspect and the giving advice to other business owners and utilizing my own failures to help guide them has been where I've seen the biggest blessings or benefits from what I do. And so one of the clients that I was speaking of was a client that was starting off on their own, and being able to walk through that process with them based off of mistakes I had made and help them and guide them, and then be there when they're struggling and say, I've been in that same exact spot, right? It's going to be okay, right? You're doing the right things. And being able to help that way has been very rewarding. Yeah.
Oh, good. Remove that fear away a little bit. From them.
Yeah. It's always tough when you're working with super small business owners or self-employed individuals, because at that point their business is their livelihood, and until someone's business becomes their business, those can be very, very difficult conversations, right? When it's a construction worker that's banking on someone paying for that job so they can, make their mortgage payment.
Feed the family.
Feed the family. Yeah. That's a livelihood thing. Right. And we have a lot of people in that situation that we work with here and try to help out. So it's a very rewarding job from that standpoint. And I enjoy it outside of the private aspect of accounting because I can be talking with an auto repair shop one day and a dog groomer the next day and a farmer the next day. And it's just, it keeps me entertained and involved.
Beside the Bible, what's the most recent greatest book you've read?
It
doesn't have to be this year. It could be last year. It could be 10 years ago.
Jocko Willink's book, Extreme Ownership. That was one that was really, really good for me. I read that probably 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. I read or listened to it. I listened to that on audiobook, and that one stuck with me. I enjoyed that. At the end of the day, if something goes wrong, it's not any of my employees' fault if I have put them in a place where they can't succeed. And so that's been
the buck stop with you.
Yeah, correct. Whatever it is, right? Yeah. Whether it's my fault or not, it's my fault, right? And so being able to take that, and I think the biggest thing from that is I think it gives your employees room to fail, right? Some of my biggest learning experiences were my failures. And so if I'm going to push all that stuff down and say, this was your fault, you messed this up, blah, blah, blah. If I'm going to push all that down that way, they're not going to take the risks. Within guidelines, giving them the opportunity to stretch and figure out what works or what doesn't work. Yeah. And that's, I think that's what's big for them. And so, but then at the end of the day, when someone comes in upset, that's a me thing, right? Yeah. And those conversations are not always fun, but it is what it is.
It's a part of being a boss.
It is. It is. We've all been upset about something at some point. And so just recognizing what's going on in that person's world and what it is that you can't see that's going on and just taking that all into account as you're dealing with things.
Do you listen to podcasts at all?
I listen to podcasts quite a bit.
Which one is your favorite?
There's a Craig Groeschel podcast on leadership that he does. I listen to that one. How I Started This in North Iowa. It's going to be a new one. Actually, Dave Ramsey's Entree Leadership.
Okay.
I listened to that one. I listened to his Entree Leadership one. I don't listen to it's about the right distance between home and work. So it takes about 2 round trips and I've got it down.
That's true.
There's some accounting industry ones I listen to as well. Some modern firm type things. Okay. There was one by a guy named Darren Root. He participated in the E-Myth Accountant book. He wrote part of that a couple of years ago. So just that systematizing thing aspect of that. But seeing what's new out there in the accounting industry is kind of where I focus a lot of my time.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What do you want your legacy to be, man?
My kids and what my wife and I are trying to build there.
You don't want to be remembered as a great CPA. You want to be remembered as a great father.
Yeah. This doesn't matter, right? Yeah. I read somewhere once, I can't remember who said it, but you're 2 generations away from being unknown. Oof. Right? And that shifts the way you look at the way I look at things. If I think about that, I think about my father and my grandfathers, and I never knew the generation before that, and I couldn't tell you who they are. And so that's kind of big to me, right?
Wow.
I don't want to be known as a CPA or a business owner or any of those things. I want to be known as the dad, the friend, the person who, when stuff hit the fan or when somebody needed something, he was there. Yeah. Right. And that's the type of stuff that matters to me. What I'm doing today in this office, as much as it needs to be done and it's going to help this person and deal with this, whatever, build this business so that we can feed these families and they have jobs and all those things. None of that really matters. No. In 40 years, I'm going to be 80 years old looking back on my life and what did I do? Mm-hmm. Right. And that's where my kids are the legacy that I'm trying to leave behind.
What is the difference between living and existing?
Ooh, living and existing?
Yes.
I think existing is you show up, you go home, and it's day after day after day, right? I think living is you are making conscious choices of how you are, of what you do, right? And even in a setting where I have to come to work every day from 8 to 5, right? And in that, you can choose to thrive in that scenario, or you can choose to get by. And I think getting by is existing. And I think choosing to do more or choosing to participate in what's going on is living.
Being conscious with your life.
Being conscious of the decisions you're making and the consequences of those, right? I had a basketball coach that said it takes 21 days to break a habit and about 3 hours to make one. And so
I like that.
He said that. And that's one of those things. It's like, you don't realize the things that are going to stick with you, but that's one of them, right? And if I made the decision to, every night go home and lay on the couch and drink a few beers, right? It's not going to take very many nights before that's who I am. And so being conscious of that and making sure that, the things that I want to do, the things I want to focus on are first and foremost in your thoughts as you're doing these things.
Man, can a society exist without laws?
Oh, no. No, it can't. I think that a society can
have too many laws.
I think there can be way too much regulation on things. I really do. But no, I don't know that a society can exist in this world without laws. We are born into sin. And this is where my Christian beliefs take over, right? But we're born into sin. We're all born with our own selves at mind, right? We're born selfish. We're born in that realm, and none of that really ever changes, right? And so, in a world that you're born into that, I don't know that without laws that it would be I don't know that it'd be a very fun place to live.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be a very peaceful place to live.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a good question. I might change my mind in a few hours, but
and that's the beauty of philosophical questions. Does good and evil come from the same place?
Does good and evil come from the same place? My answer is no, they don't come from the same place.
But we can be good and evil too.
But we can be, yeah.
Is good from God and evil from the devil?
I think this is where people are going to question my theology, maybe. But yes, good is from God. The devil cannot create anything, so I do not believe that evil is from him. I believe that evil is from choices and consequences that man has made. And so way back to the first story ever told of Adam and Eve, right? It was a choice that was made, and evil entered the world. Yeah. And so did God create that? Well, yeah, God created everything. So essentially he let man choose to bring that free will. Let us choose that. So yeah, I guess I would amend my answer to say yes, they come from the same place, but in different ways. Yeah. Right?
But we have the free will to choose which one we want. The free will
to choose. Now, there's evil in me, right? There's evil in all of us. Yep. And so it's being able to, as we continue in our walk with the Lord and become more and more sanctified or grow towards Christ, it's hopefully you see less and less of that. Yeah. And more of the other side, the good side.
The good. Yeah. If you have a chance or the opportunity to share a meal with the one person beside your wife and kids and family and friends, anybody on the planet, dead or alive, who would that be? Who would you want to have a meal with?
Oh, man. Who would I want to have a meal with? Who would be the one person I would want to have a meal with?
This is one person, Chad. Historical figure, president, ancient people.
Man, that's
philosophers, whoever you want to have a meal with. And they pay too.
And they pay. Yeah. Oh, that changes things. Better pick like Rockefeller or something, right?
Yeah. They pay too. Don't even worry about it.
Who do I want to have a meal with? Okay. I got an answer. I'm not sure I know their name, but I was told a story one time of a business owner, I think it was in the steel or crane industry, who lived off 10% of their income and gave away 90% of it.
Wow.
And I have some questions for them. And I know it's somebody is going to know their name, and I'm going to go home and Google it tonight. I think someone who can run a business, a successful business, and it was, I think it was a crane company, but a very successful business. It was growing and growing and growing, and it ended up that their 10% was more than anyone would have ever needed to live off of. Wow. And they did that while starting the company and giving away 90% of what they made.
Wow.
That's
incredible.
I think that's the person that I would want to have a meal with. I would like to speak with that family, that husband and wife, and say, what were your convictions that led you to make that decision, and what did you see from that in a way that you don't think you would have seen had you not done that? I think that's who I would want to sit down and eat a meal with.
Oh, nice. Does life have any purpose or meaning?
Yeah.
Do we know?
Well, life itself or your life, right? So like my life or just life in general?
Let's say your life and my life, because collectively it's going to be just life.
Yeah.
Do we have any purpose here?
Yes. I think we were all born with a purpose. I don't think that we all find that purpose.
Yeah.
I think that people go through life without finding it, or people find what they think it is and cling to it, and then don't really ever experience everything that they were created to experience. But yes, I do believe that there is a purpose.
How do we find it?
Oh man, prayer, okay. And it wasn't the first 12 years that I was working in this industry, right? I knew kind of what the mindset was, but it wasn't until I owned this company a couple years on my own where I knew what my purpose was. And so that time frame of, why am I doing what I'm doing? Why are we growing? What does this look like 5 years from now? And trying to make some of those decisions and things, and praying alongside my wife and trying to figure some of that stuff out. That's where I found mine. From a work standpoint.
If you could go back in any period, what time would you leave and why? Beside this time. 16th century, 15th century, 18th century.
Man, I have never thought of that.
Okay.
I think it would be, I don't think it would be, I mean, I'm a big fan of some modern amenities, my friend.
Okay. Okay.
Indoor plumbing, water from the tap, those things, refrigerated.
So it seems like you want to leave this time.
I mean, I'm not going to complain about this time. I think that in the time frame of fighting for our freedom from Great Britain, not necessarily
that was bloody.
It was bloody, but like the period after that.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
I'm a very
after 1776.
I would have been curled up in the fetal position, like please leave me alone, don't hurt me. But like the industrial revolution that came in the early 90s, but between the 1800s and early 90s, where you were beginning to see these things transition, and the country was starting out on its own and beginning to grow. Yeah. And you saw the reasoning, and you saw how the founding fathers kind of put that all together. I think that would have been a fun time. I played the Oregon Trail a lot though too, and I died so many times. So I would have died really, really young, I think, of malaria or something. But I think that time frame. Actually, one of the books I've read recently is Henry Ford's autobiography. Some of that would have been fun to be a part of, watching him kind of grow that. And
the evolution
how
of
he
cars.
Correct. Some of those transitions and the battles he fought and things like that. So, man, that's a good question.
So let's say next week, and this is going to be a tough one.
Okay, good.
So let's say next week you go see the doctor, and the doctor gives you 1 year to live. Let's say, Chad, this is all you got. How do you prioritize your life? What's some of the things on your to-do list that they're going to need to drop?
Yeah, that is a tough one, man.
Yep.
This company has been built in a way that it can succeed without me. The people we have here are great. The team has been built. I would walk away from this and spend the rest of the time with my family. My wife and I would travel, I imagine, but mainly I would want to spend my time preparing for her time without me from that standpoint. And then my kids, I would spend every single waking hour with them. We don't homeschool now and don't really think we would or need to, but I think I would. Yeah. I think I'd pull them in and I would spend the next 12 months instilling in them and my 3 daughters what they need to be, with the same things that we've been trying to instill in them. But kind of spend the next 12 months force feeding that stuff down their throat and making sure that they're set up to succeed. And then my son, same thing, helping him grow into the man that he's meant to be.
Okay.
So
interesting you say that. Get my affairs in order.
Yeah.
You better get started, because tomorrow is not promised, Chad.
Tomorrow is not promised. That is exactly right. That is exactly right.
How do you fix the divide? What's some of the solution? What should we do? Or what's the end goal if we don't fix it?
I think that too often we think that the problem is this huge issue in our nation, and we can't fix it. But the issue to us is you and me across the table. And I think that that's where too often we look at this and say it's hopeless, rather than looking at it and say, I have hope and I'm going to love that person right there. And I think that will change that person's world, and that will, in essence, cascade beyond that. And I think if we all had that mindset where I'm not going to worry about the problems of the nation I can't control, but I'm going to worry about myself and what I can control, I think that we start to see that change.
I like that. Yeah. I like that. Well, appreciate, thanks for what you do. Keep doing what you're doing. And until next time, I'm probably going to need to sit down with you again next 5 years.
Okay. Yeah. I'm in. We'll see. Well, it'll be interesting to see where we're both at.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Chad.
Absolutely. Talk to you later.